You are watching the New American Media. Live from Los Angeles, California. Welcome to Agree to Disagree here on the NewAmericanMedia.com. Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Brian Engelman. Today we're going to be talking a little North Korea. Talk North Korea. Things are very stable and calm over there in North Korea. Oh, am I happy. That's a sigh of relief, folks. You know why? Because Fidel Castro and Dennis Rodman are on the story. They're on it. They got things under control. Then we're also going to talk about this one. This one's hilarious. This one's hilarious. National Financial Capability Month, says the White House. Oh, April. Let's see. It's April Fool's Day on the 1st, and then Tax Day on the 15th. Tax Day. We've always had Tax Day, though. No? Oh, that only started in 1913 when the Federal Reserve with Woodrow Wilson. What did they give us? They gave us the Federal Reserve in 1913. They gave us the income tax in 1913. And aren't things great and peachy now? Yeah. And then we're going to talk about Navy, the confiscation of Navy guns. We'll dig into the story. We'll pull it up. We'll talk about James Holmes. What are we finding out about him? Do we need to ban more? See, this whole gun control thing, I'm thinking maybe we should just ban violent crime and or murder. I mean, a gun left to its own device isn't going to do anything. Maybe we should just ban murder or ban violent crime. That's what I'm thinking. Then we got a sheriff in Colorado. He had a couple of choice words for the president. Well, we'll get to all of this. We'll get to all this. By the way, if you're not following us on Twitter, we're at American_media_. On Facebook, search The New American Media and like our page. Subscribe to youtube.com/The New American Media. Thank you for our 80,000th video view. Appreciate that. That's about 40,000 a year, because on the 30th of this month, we're going to celebrate our 2-year YouTube anniversary. I guess that's kind of like our unofficial anniversary coming up on a 2-year birthday. Yay! And check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. Without further ado, we're going to bring in Blake the Eccentric Walley. He is a radio host over on freedomizerradio.com. You can hear him every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from noon to 1:30 p.m. Pacific. And he's on Twitter at Eccentric99. You can download his podcast by going to iTunes and searching Eccentric Perspective. We'll bring him in now to join us here on Agree to Disagree.
Hello.
Hey, Blake, you are live on the air. How you doing, sir?
Excellent. How are you, Brian?
Living the dream. Living the dream. Kind of like if I were 28 years old or 29 years old and my dad died and left, you read the will. It's like, oh, man, it's so horrible this happened. Okay, what's in the will? Congratulations, you now own North Korea. Okay, I guess I'm in charge of North Korea now, says Kim Jong Un. And he's being a little provocative over there. That's kind of what I'm thinking about right off the bat here. I know we got about 3 major topics we want to cover. How about we start with North Korea? Does that sound good?
Sure. Because I was thinking, if I was a dictator of a country, I think I would, in that total bizarro world over there, I would think I'd want to be, I would try to keep a low profile amongst the rest of the world and just enjoy my absolute power trip, but apparently that's not the case.
You said if you were a dictator, so you don't have any future aspirations to become said dictator?
A lot could happen between now and then, so we really don't know. So who knows? I have big aspirations. I don't know about dictators, but we shall see.
Speaking of we shall see, here's the headline, April 5, that's today. North Korea, this is from FoxNews.com, North Korea moves missile launchers, includes issues safety warning to foreign embassies as tensions continued to mount on the Korean peninsula. The communist dictatorship in the north deployed mid-range missile launchers to its east coast and reportedly warned foreign embassies Friday it cannot guarantee the safety of diplomats after April 10th. Reuters reported early Friday that North Korea deployed 2 of its intermediate-range missiles on mobile launchers and hid them on the east coast of the country. Hang on. So if Reuters is reporting what they're doing, I guess it's not that hidden. Sorry. Anyway, citing a South Korean news agency. South Korea said Thursday that North Korea moved a missile with, quote, considerable range, end quote, to its east coast after an unnamed spokesman for the North Korean army warned the U.S. Wednesday that the military has been cleared to wage an attack using smaller, lighter, and diversified nuclear weapons. Okay. Hang on. There's a whole rest of the story here, but let's just pause on we're ready to use nuclear weapons. Blake.
Yeah.
We've already sent the best diplomats that we have to offer. The best diplomat that the United States has to offer, in Dennis Rodman. We did send him already. And for some reason this didn't work. Where do we go from here with North Korea?
Well, I thought it was working. I don't know what happened there or what changed Kim Jong Un's mind, but you know what? It could be a lot of different reasons. I don't even know where to start. But the other thing is that this guy might be completely insane. So that's also another factor. I mean, we got a third-generation dictator, and he's I think barely 30 years old. So, and of course, this country is basically looks like a relic from the Stalin era of old Cold War Russia. I mean, this is a crazy cuckoo world that these people live in. So I have no idea what they're thinking, but they actually happen to have a few old nuclear weapons lying about. Now, we don't actually know if they can launch them, if they can put them on missiles, if they could really hit anything with them. Not really sure. There's a lot of speculation, but definitely beating the war drums over there in the old NK.
Now, I'm looking at this image. All you have to do is just kind of search in on your browser, satellite image at night, North Korea, and you see all these islands and just all these countries and things going on, and pretty much the entire nation of North Korea is living, I don't know, like the Amish.
Yeah, that's a good. It would be a good comparison. Yeah,
there are 7 dots of light.
Lights out.
7 dots of
curfew.
Light in the entire country. Yes, it is a mandatory dictator curfew. 7 dots of light, kind of like Bush's 1,000 points of light. Anyway. 7 dots of light, the entire nation is out. I mean, this is a weird place. I mean, why do we always have to go to war with the weird places? Afghanistan, ratcheting this up in North Korea. I mean, I don't know. Are we ever going to go
most of the other... Well, those ones are about resources, or at least that's why we continue to occupy those places. I don't know exactly what North Korea has in terms of resources.
That is a conspiracy theory, Blake. You're a nutter.
Right.
Tinfoil
hat.
hat.
I'm sure we're in Afghanistan for very good reason. I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with the opium or the Caspian Sea oil or any of the mining that's there. I'm sure we just want to bring peace and prosperity to the Afghan people. I'm sure that's what it's been there. And yes, exactly, Brian. Thank you for correcting me. How dare I question the integrity of our leadership?
Yeah, if you were in North Korea, you might be put out in the middle of a field because you didn't properly mourn the father's death, and a mortar shell would explode on your skull, just like Kim Jong Un did.
Right.
You remember that story we read? Yeah, I know we covered that a couple of shows ago. But that's what they do. They Barack Obama you, or I'm sorry, they drone you. They drone you.
Sounds perfectly normal to me, Brian.
Yeah. Well, if the country's a battlefield. And there are Americans can be killed on our soil. Wait, no. I think after that filibuster, I think we totally got a crystal clear vision, a crystal clear answer after that from Eric Holder, right? So hang on. Sorry, I was being a little bombastic there. Let me walk back all of those comments. I was out of line, Blake. Let me just hit reset on that.
Thank you for correcting yourself.
Yeah, well, I don't want Chris Matthews to come down too hard on me. Because You know,
right.
the science was settled on this drone issue long before Rand Paul got up for a filibuster. What a grandstanding constitutionalist weirdo. Anyway, so...
You're probably just a racist, Brian, so anyway.
Absolutely, and I hate the poor. And what else do I hate? And any religion that's not mine. And I hate, I don't know, ice cream.
Well, if you question anything, any of our dear leaders' ideals, you are automatically a racist.
And you don't like apple pie?
You're just harboring old feelings, pretty much. If Obama does not like apple pie, and then you say you like apple pie, that probably is some sort of code for racism.
There's no probably about it. I think you're onto something there. No, but I mean that's what they do in North Korea. This Kim Jong Un, the guy in his military. I don't have the story pulled up in front of me, but he didn't properly mourn the death of his father, so he took him out in a field and he launched a mortar shell at him and exploded him. You know, and you have Anwar al-Awlaki getting destroyed along with his. How old was his son? 14 years old, 15 years old, 16-year-old,
something like that.
Some sort
14,
of teen.
15, 16.
He's a young kid. He gets blown up. He's an American citizen. Yeah, he's in Yemen. Who wants to be in?
It's called collateral
Yemen.
damage, Brian. I mean, do you want to win the war on terror or not? You know, you got to. What did they say? You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. You know what I'm saying?
Oh Lord. My surgeon said that when I had my ACL surgery. I'm like, come on, man, I got this whole dead patch here. I can't feel a thing. Look, I'm stabbing myself with a pen, and I can't feel it. And you're talking about omelets? I mean, thankfully, I can run and walk
Right.
now, so I am appreciative of that. But that's what happens in countries where dictators are in charge. They just kill people because they don't like them. You know, and I want to get to this. I know you talked about this Navy gun confiscation. We'll talk about it in a second because we're going to wrap up North Korea. But, I mean,
Sure.
These are all the pitfalls. You look at worst-case scenarios, whether it's Stalin or Mao or Hitler, or you look at all the bad people throughout history. You tend to learn what not to do, what not to allow the dear leader to take control of. Well, you don't want them to have an emergency switch where there's no electricity in your entire country. Wait, we already did that here. Isn't there an emergency internet control switch, an emergency shutoff?
They would certainly like that kind of power if they could get away with it, yes.
I think they did. And then you got CISPA and you got SOPA, you got the new version coming out trying to censor all the information that's going out, so it's nothing but
Don't worry,
straight-run
Brian.
propaganda.
They're working on that legislation behind closed doors, so I'm sure it's nothing to worry about.
Can you explain that for me?
There's actually a lot of legislation, including, of course, health care and the latest immigration bill. A lot of things that are being worked on behind closed doors out of the public eye. So, I don't know. I think it's exactly the way our forefathers intended the government to run. So I'm glad that they've finally gotten around to doing such that.
Well, you were saying something about North Korea as well, because, I mean, we're going to have to see how this all plays out. Everybody's puffing out their chest and trying to act tough. But, you know, I take threats seriously. If someone threatens my life, I take it seriously. You know,
well, you don't have to wait long, Brian, because it's April 10th is the deadline. So
the deadline for?
That's what North Korea is telling the British diplomats to get out, and then they set a chilling April 10th deadline to that's when they will be able to guarantee the safety of the embassies, and that's going to extend to Russian diplomats as well. I don't exactly know how many embassies are running out of North Korea, but it is still unclear why Wednesday has been set as a deadline, but it is sure to spark fears that despot Kim Jong Un will launch an attack after that date. So he does not guarantee any other foreigners safety in the country up until after that April 10th date.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you, who is the U.S. ambassador to North Korea? Is that Chris Stevens? Is that the guy's name? The ambassador in North Korea?
That would be a negative. No. Maybe he could have been at one time.
Wasn't it Chris Stevens?
Certainly
on
September 11th.
Who was Chris Stevens? Why am I thinking he was the ambassador to North Korea?
He's somebody that the establishment would rather you not mention. Would like to forget. You know, we got to. Why you got to rehash these horrible stories on Benghazi, Brian?
It's purely political, obviously.
Right. It is. You're just trying to make a political issue out of nothing.
Trying to score worthless political points. It's not like our ambassador wasn't murdered and dragged through the streets of Benghazi, while in real time we had capabilities there that could help, and they were repeatedly told to stand down. What was it, 7 times? 3 times.
Brian, stop politicizing stuff. There was, I'm sure that, they're still working on the details, and, we just have to be patient and let this investigation run its course.
I thought so. The science is settled on Benghazi is kind of essentially what you're getting at.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You're hurting the victims right now, Brian, by even mentioning this stuff.
You mean all the victims that they've given all those interviews since the people that were there on September 11th that survived, all those interviews that we saw with Pierce Morgan and Anderson Cooper and the ladies of The View. Or how about that other stupid shit? Did you see that one on CNN that they started it? Get to the point. It's just like The Five. It's just like.
Oh yeah,
the cycle.
They made fun of that on the Daily Show the other day. Yes.
I mean, it's just like, guys, come on. You're literally copying The Five. You're literally copying it. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just a format.
I'm gonna double check that. Yeah, because it doesn't sound surprising. They just don't have any ideas. That's CNN, right? That's their new morning show.
It was. I like Donnie Deutsch. I think the dude's pretty sharp. I've liked him. And that's the thing too. I was thinking about this the other day, Blake. You don't need to love everything about somebody to like parts of them. Like I could like a baseball player, but not like. His politics. I can like somebody when they talk 80% of the time and 20% of the time you think they're nuts. But that doesn't mean the guy has or the girl has nothing valid to say. I mean, Rachel Maddow will occasionally stumble across a few valid points from time to time. I mean, all of the clowns on MSNBC will stumble across valid points from time to time. Just not most of the time.
Maddow does make some good. She has some talent. She's just in a position where she's got to protect the administration to some extent. That's the way it comes off as. So her show is awful in that sense. But if she was a totally independent and objective journalist, free from corporate news, then her show would probably improve substantially. I can't make the same argument for the Chris Matthews, Al Sharptons, Ed Schultz, and Lawrence O'Donnell's of the world. So if you want to give her that kind of credit, I suppose I could do that.
What about this? What about the Fidel Castros of the world? Because you had mentioned something about Fidel. Yeah. Were you able to find a story on that? Because we're talking about leading from behind is the famous the Obama Doctrine. When people, what is the Obama Doctrine? Well, it's hard to tell. What is it? No, the Obama Doctrine is leading from behind, and then on the other bumper sticker would say forward, leading from behind, forward. But
lean forward. Yes, even the MSNBC
forward.
hosts make little commercials to promote lean forward.
Hi, I'm Rachel Maddow. I'm at the Hoover Dam. Look at this ingenuity. Don't you think we could fix Medicare? Those Republicans are... Yeah, I know. I've seen it. Lean forward.
Yeah, lean forward. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it looks like.
Or then there's Ed Schultz like... my dad worked at this place for a long time, and unions, and and have some coffee, please, and lean forward.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you guys are so down to earth. Look at y'all. Oh, and then there's that one guy, Chris Hayes, or Haynes, and he's riding his bike with his
new dude. I can't remember his name, but yeah, he used to fill in for Maddow, and now he's got his own show.
He looks a lot like Maddow. They look very similar. Like if you had twins that were boy-girl. Like, they look very similar. If you dress them identical with identical haircuts and identical eyewear, they look like boy-girl twins, kind of. But he does one of those commercials where he's on his bicycle and he has his safety bicycle hat on. He's like, hi, I'm doing this thing, and yeah, go America. Or lean forward. Anyway, when I ride my bike to work, because I'm green, I lean forward for better aerodynamics. Sorry, anyway. Moving on. What about Fidel Castro?
You're a big fan. All right.
Yes, I love everything about the network. I hold on. What is the phrase I want to say? I celebrate their entire catalog. It's a line from Office Space about Michael Bolton. Anyway, go ahead. Fidel Castro.
All right, just a quick little note on that, because about this North Korea thing, and tensions are obviously getting a bit high here. So Fidel Castro today has urged North Korea to avoid nuclear warfare. So I guess that's so former Cuban President Fidel Castro urged North Korea to steer clear of atomic warfare, saying Koreans faced, quote, one of the most grave risks of nuclear war since the Cuban Missile Crisis half a century ago. So that's really, I think we could just leave it at that. So it's interesting that a former, or actually I should say a still current dictator who's in the twilight of his, what would you say?
Wouldn't that be funny if Castro was in the, wouldn't it be funny if Castro was in the latest Twilight movie?
That would surprise some people, I'm sure.
You know what? I think he might be on the werewolf. Team Castro. I could see that. He looks a little bit like a werewolf, getting old with that big old beard.
Yeah, he's definitely aging that way. He's got a good beard going. Yeah, I'm sure it wouldn't take a lot of makeup. He could probably pull that one off. So yeah, Fidel Castro is the voice of reason here for North Korea. Just about everybody is. Nobody. There is no allies with North Korea. But I guess we just try to figure out why are they doing this. There's a couple reasons, or I said there were several reasons. Just to get into a couple more, there could be preparing North Korean war to coincide with an economic implosion. That could go both ways, though, because there was a very interesting Kurt Nimmo article out of InfoWars on April 3rd, because we are looking at, our economy is on the brink of collapse. North Korea's economy is just has been a disaster. So, I mean, these are the kinds of things that countries sometimes do. They kind of get themselves into war to get the economy running again. You can kind of look back at the, FDR, the New Deal, problems with the Vietnam War.
No. The New Deal. I mean, it was
91. Yes.
It was the New Deal.
First Iraq War.
The New Deal got us out of the Great Depression, don't you know? It had nothing to do with the war, right?
Right. The big everybody joining in the war effort. So anyway, I mean that's speculation. And of course, if you want to subscribe to these sort of theories, since Syria has been holding up and hasn't given in yet, and since we have been unable to get into Iran, you could say that with the economy teetering, that maybe they're staging a war with North Korea. I don't know about that. But also with North Korea, maybe just because they've got so many sanctions, they've got really nothing left to lose, perhaps. I don't know. So there's just people throwing that around. So we got the Federal Reserve plan to crash the economy. This is speculation. The Federal Reserve plan to crash the economy and make room for world government and an authoritarian globalist economic and accompanying police state control system will necessitate a sufficient prerequisite. Did you follow that? And that prerequisite may very well be a new war on the Korean Peninsula. So it should be obvious by now that the Federal Reserve's so-called quantitative easing, the bankster's shorthand for pumping fiat dollars into rigged financial markets by buying bonds and treasury bills, is creating a huge financial asset bubble that is going to burst with an ear-splitting boom, and soon. So I don't know. Maybe we could tie that in. Is that, because they say, oh, here we go, FDR. It is said that FDR's New Deal didn't get us out of the Great Depression, but World War II did, writes Justin Raimondo. So the truth is, in wartime, when people are expected to sacrifice for the duration of the emergency, economic problems are anesthetized. I can't even pronounce that, Brian.
Anesthetized?
Anesthesia, anesthetized. I usually don't hear it written like that. Out of existence by liberal doses of nationalist chest-beating and moral righteousness. Shortages and plunging living standards were masked by a wartime rationing system and greatly lowered expectations. And just as World War II inured us to the economic ravages wrought by our thieving elites, so World War III will provide plenty of cover for a virtual takeover of all industry by the government and the demonization of all political opposition as terrorists. A lot of big words in there, but the basic idea is, paralleling. It's speculation, though. You can't take it completely literally. You're just looking you're asking questions. Why? Why would they do this? Why is there, beating the war of drums? I mean, I don't know. So, anywho, that's about all I've got on North Korea.
Let me see if I can. I'm trying to put my. Hang on one sec. If I hold on. If I bend the tin foil, hold on. I got to get my hat on real quick.
Excellent.
So hang on, almost. You got to over cross corner-wise. There.
All right. Yes. Make sure you put your tinfoil hat on. Get it nice and tight.
Now that's an inch. Yeah. No, I mean, look. In times of great crisis, there is an opportunity to pervert a system and ratchet things up and change things. You can take advantage of crisis. Never let a crisis go. Never waste the opportunity to exploit a crisis. You know? Paraphrasing what we've heard before out of our administrations. Oh, I love United States governmental policy decisions, especially when it comes to civil liberties and big important decisions that are made behind closed doors. But anyway, Blake, I digress. I'm kidding, of course. All right, let's do this.
Right.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk, I don't know, which one? We could either talk about National Financial Capability Month. Folks, I cannot make this up, that the White House is... I mean, this White House that is so incompetent.
I think it's a great segue. Yes.
Okay. Well, then let's do
because
that.
We just talked about a possible economic crisis that is leading us to potential wars. So let's talk about the economy and the newest developments on that front, leading to the reasons why we might. Why would they, be talking about war? I mean, how bad is the economy really? So we can get into a few developments from the week.
Okay, let's do that. We are on Agree to Disagree here at thenewamericanmedia.com. Our co-host, our guest for today is Blake the Eccentric. Walley Blake is a radio host on freedomizerradio.com. You can find him every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from noon to 1:30 p.m. Pacific. You can also follow him on Twitter at Eccentric99. Check out his homepage, eccentricperspective.com, and search for his iTunes podcasts by going on iTunes and searching Eccentric Perspective, and you can sign up for those podcasts. Please make sure you visited our home site, thenewamericanmedia.com. Subscribe to youtube.com/newamericanmedia. Follow us on Twitter at American_media_, and search The New American Media on Facebook and like our page there. I'm Brian Engelman. We'll be right back on the other side here on Agree to Disagree.
You are listening to The New American Media.